Part 12. Kumogakure forced me, and the Third Hokage persuaded me to die. Author, Uchiha Hokage. Chapter 113. In the Divine Space. Obito watched the battle between the two wooden figures and couldn't help but frown. Why is the strength gap between wooden people so big? It's also a wooden figure. Hinata Nariku's wooden figure. Why can it easily take three-tailed beast Tama? However, Faye's wooden figure was almost demolished by the same tailed beast Tama. After all, it was only performed by a Faye, and there should be a big gap between it and the first Hokage himself. Black Zetsu was silent for a while, trying to convince himself. However, Black Zetsu was not surprised by Hinata Nariku's performance of grabbing the tailed beast Jade. He once secretly watched the battle in the Valley of the End. At that time, the first Hokage, the Bokuto of the first Hokage, once showed a strong scene of grabbing the tailed beast Jade. It was the tailed beast Jade of the Nine Tails. But in front of the Bokuto of the first Hokage, it could only be like the Raise-Non of the fourth Hokage. Caught in the hand. Also, the ninja reincarnated from the dirty soil cannot fully exert its full strength before birth. Black Zetsu glanced at Sarutobi Hiruzen and explained. When Sarutobi Hiruzen was still the third Hokage, he once secretly practiced this ninjutsu. However, the actual application now depends more on this period of time. Assault practice. In Black Zetsu's view, Hiruzen Sarutobi's mastery of the reincarnation of the Dirty Land is far behind the inventor of the second Hokage. Hiruzen Sarutobi looked gloomy and did not answer this, but said, "Isn't it possible that Faye couldn't defeat Hyuga Nariku even if he controlled the first Hokage? This damn Hyuga Nariku is so difficult to kill." Thinking of his three old friends who died, his two sons who were killed, and his clan members who were wiped out, Sarutobi Hiruzen was so filled with hatred that he went crazy. Even if they died together, I also want to kill Hinata Nariku. There is no need to rush, a Faye has one last trick. Heizetsu's dark face, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. With that move, Hinata Nariku will definitely be able to get rid of him. The guy who hindered him from resurrecting his mother will disappear today. Outside. Hinata Nariku also knows that this most powerful move is what? Senju Hashirama's strongest ninjutsu. Thousands of hands indeed. In the original 4 battles, Uzumaki Hakuze Suahi once controlled Yamato and displayed this ninjutsu. Of course, he hammered away with Senju Hashirama. Compared with the original version of the powerful Susan, it is still much worse. However, in the 4 battles, it was still enough to suppress the ninja coalition. Even the true hundreds of hands almost have the power of one punch and one shadow. Hyuga Nariku did not stop a Faye and looked at him quietly. He also wanted to see what height a Faye's true 1,000 hands could reach after controlling the first Hokage of the Dirty Land. "You bastard, you didn't take the opportunity to kill me, it's already too late now." Baijuo Faye laughed triumphantly, and at the same time clasped his hands together. Would escape, really thousands of hands. Boom. On the ground that had been flattened by the wooden men's fighting before, a huge Buddha statue stood up. The huge Buddha statue is hundreds of meters high. On the head of the huge Buddha statue, there are 5 small Buddha heads. Baijuo Faye is standing on the Buddha's head in the center. Is this the strongest move of the first Hokage? A Faye looked at the huge Buddha statue under him and nodded with satisfaction. "Hey, that guy!" A Faye shouted to Hinata Nariku on the wooden figure's shoulder. In front of the huge Buddha statue, Hinata Nariku's wooden figure, which was originally as tall as a mountain, suddenly turned into a child. "If you can tell me what it feels like to have a bowel movement, I might be able to let you die happily." After performing this trick, a Faye didn't seem to worry about his failure at all. His tone of voice when speaking to Hinata Nariku was also full of joking and teasing. "Is this your real thousands of hands? This number of hands cannot be called 1,000, right?" Hyuga Nariku stood on the shoulders of the wooden figure, looking up at the huge Buddha statue. It was about 3 times the height of his wooden figure. A huge Buddha statue with a height of more than 300 meters. The 3 tails not far away, facing this height, they have all turned into harmless little animals. However, in Hinatan Nariku's view, this true thousand hands is nothing more than that. There is no way to compare with the first Hokage. At most, it is stronger than the original control of Yamato. Just a few. But it makes sense. Even Senju Hashirama himself needs to rely on the huge amount of chakra in the sage mode to use the senjutsu. And Fei has not mastered the senjutsu. He just relies on it. Only with his own huge amount of chakra and the infinite chakra of the first generation of Gentoo can he successfully display this true hundreds of hands. Moreover, a Fei's mastery of wood escape is far worse than that of the first generation Hokage himself. So, let me see the strength of your so-called thousands of hands. Hyuga Nariku stood on the wooden man's shoulders, not afraid at all, and even looked a little excited. When he put his hands together, the wooden man under his feet changed again. A wooden dragon emerged from the wooden man and wrapped around the wooden man's body. Originally, the wooden man with only 2 arms has 2 more arms on both sides. There are even 6 wooden squatting arms on the left and right, and they all have a wooden escape sword. Stupid ants, under this power, turn into shit. Fei didn't care about the changes in the wooden man, and pushed the Buddha statue to hit him. The wooden man and the Buddha statue were not at the same height at all. Boom. Tread. 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 The sound of the huge Buddha statue pushing on the ground, and the wooden there was a huge earthquake when people ran and stepped on the ground. The entire primitive island was shaking. All the creatures were shocked by this battle. In the woods far away on the other side of the island, all the endless birds left the forest. What kind of battle is this? The Konoha ninja who was looking away from a distance said in a daze. This kind of super-scale battle has completely exceeded their imagination. I hope Gode-sama can defeat the opponent. Some people couldn't help but pray. In the consciousness space of Sanwei Isofu, the consciousnesses of Goju Yagura and Sanwei Isofu were also paying attention to this battle. They both lost control of Sanwei's body. In a few years before that, the one-eyed mysterious man had already firmly controlled them. However, Goju Yagura did not lose his perception of the outside world. The masked man who called himself Uchiha Madara did what he did to Kirigakure village. He saw things clearly. Kirigakure village, which had already suffered heavy losses in the 3 wars, became even more riddled with holes under that bastard's torment. I hope the 5th Hokage of Konoha can defeat the opponent. Godakibana Yagura was silent for a long time and said with some uncertainty. Although it would not be good for him no matter which side wins. But at least Konoha wins. He can get rid of the control, and Kirigakure will not be controlled again. That masked man was upset. It's useless. I've never seen the giant Buddha's wood release. It was probably the first Hokage's strongest move. Sanwaji stroked his head and sighed. It still remembers the power of the first Hokage. At that time, the first Hokage only used a wooden dragon to restrain it so that it could hardly move. It didn't think that in this era, anyone could be as good as back then. The first Hokage is comparable to the first Hokage. And the battle outside is indeed like this. Hyuga Nariku's wooden man is tossing and turning in the huge wooden escape fist. The 6 wooden escape swords in the wooden man's hand will hit the wooden escape arm. Cut them off one by one. However, there is no way to completely defend them. After all, there is a size gap between the 2. Is that about it? Hyuga Nariku controlled the somewhat damaged wooden figure to retreat. He already understood the strength of this Buddha statue. It is indeed much worse than the original version of Senju Hashirama. In the original work, Fei controlled Yamato's real thousands of hands, and the power was also limited. It can also bully the 5 shadows who were almost exhausted at that time. What's wrong? Why did you escape? Didn't we have a great time? A face shouted in a happy voice. Escape. The corners of Hinata Nariku's mouth slightly raised, and he began to mobilize all the chakra in his body. He has not mastered the senjutsu. However, with his added points to reach the full level of Yang escape, which reaches the 6th level, the amount of chakra is definitely enough. Do you think this is the full power of the true thousand hands? In this case, let you see the real thousand-armed Buddha. As he spoke, all the chakra in Hinata Nariku's body exploded. He put his hands together and shouted. Would escape, literally thousands of hands, with the top turning into a Buddha. Boom! The towering Buddha statue stands on the primitive island. The wooden figure of Hyaga Nariku before became extremely small in front of this huge Buddha statue. Endless wooden arms surrounded the Buddha statue. The real truth, thousands of hands. After decades, the thousand-armed Buddha appears again. Hinata Nariku stood on the top of the Buddha's head, looking down at the earth in front of him. Come on, keep going. Kumogakure forced me, and the Third Hokage persuaded me to die. Author, Uchiha Hokage. Chapter 114. So, what is that? The Konoha ninjas and Kirigakure ninjas who were watching the battle from a distance felt as if their breathing had stopped. If they were still shocked when a phase true thousand hands appeared before. Then. Now. They saw Hinata Nariku's huge Buddha statue that's 1,000 meters high. A group of people felt like their brains were about to stop thinking. Is this really what ninjutsu can do? Someone muttered to himself. The previous wooden figures were only a few hundred meters tall. Although it was very exaggerated, they could barely accept it. Especially the ninjas here in Konoha. Many people also participated in the last battle against Kumogakure. They had seen Susanoo of Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Shisui. Comparable to the size of a tailed beast. It can even go head-to-head with tailed beasts in terms of strength. In comparison, the wooden figures of Baiju Afei and Hinata Nariku are much taller. But after seeing Susanoo, they could barely accept it. And now? This Buddha statue is thousands of meters tall. The head of the Buddha statue is even surrounded by clouds. The peaks on this primitive island seem extremely small in front of the huge Buddha statue. This is entirely the power of God. In the divine space. The three of them, Obito Uchiha, all stared at the towering Buddha statue with tearful eyes. How could it be possible? How could he possibly do this? Uchiha Obito roared crazily in his heart. He had seen this move in the information left by Uchiha Madara. Really thousands of hands, with a Buddha on top. The strongest move of the ninja god Thousand Hands Hashirama. Uchiha Madara's description of this move records that the height of the Buddha statue is as high as thousands of meters. Just like the Buddha statue at the feet of Hinata Nariku now. How could that guy Hyaga Nariku be so strong? Uchiha Obito only felt that his sense of superiority was almost completely shattered. After opening the Kamui kaleidoscope and inheriting Uchiha Madara's mantle, he had a kind of arrogant self-confidence. Even though he had been defeated by in the hands of the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze. But, didn't Minato Namikaze still die in the Nine Tails rebellion he planned? After learning about Hinata Nariku's record in Kumogakure, Uchiha Obito also had to denial. Hyaga Nariku's hard power is superior to his. That's why he wanted to use the power of the first Hokage to kill Hinata Nariku. However, he saw the first Hokage's strongest move from Hinata Nariku. His thousands of hands may not be as good as those of the first Hokage. Heizetsu was silent for a long time before saying. Decades ago, he had seen this move in the Valley of the End. Even Black Zetsu had to admit. Senju Hashirama is the reincarnation of Asura Chakra in the past. The strongest one. That move is really thousands of hands, chasing the ancestor of the Senju clan, Asura. That's why. Black Zetsu is even more unwilling to believe it. Hyaga Nariku, a ninja of the Hyaga clan, has the attainments of wood release, can reach the height of Senju Hashirama back then. Maybe his Buddha statue is not strong enough. Heiju said with some uncertainty. He can only convince himself in this way now. However, no matter what, we must try our best to kill him this time. Uchiha Obito nodded gloomily. He looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen next to him, and then turned his attention to the three-tailed Aisatsu outside. Hyuga Nariku must be eliminated. Outside. White Zetsuafe was completely shocked by the sudden appearance. The thousand-armed Buddha shocked the scene. Even with his weird way of thinking, he realized the terror of the Buddha in front of him. Hey, don't you want to continue? Hyuga Nariku's voice came down from high in the sky. It was like a high-altitude god giving an ultimatum to the mortals below. Baiju Afe almost raised his head completely to see the top of the Buddha. Afe. Keep on being a ghost. Is this one size? Otherwise, how about I give you 100 hands? Hinatan Nariku said with the corners of his mouth raised slightly. Hateful. Baiju Afe shouted angrily. You damn shit, don't underestimate me. On the true hundreds of hands, which is more than 300 meters high, there are 5 small Buddha statues on the head of the Buddha, with their mouths opening one by one. Fire, thunder, water, wind, earth. The 5 elements escape technique, one from the mouth of the 5 Buddha statues. Once issued. Is it only to this extent? The Buddha statue at Hyuga Nariku's feet did not dodge at all. In front of the 1,000-meter-tall Buddha statue, these ninjutsu were no better than scratching an itch. A random wave of an arm would scatter the ninjutsu that would be extremely terrifying to ordinary people. Now that you have tried it, let me try the power of this trick too. It just so happened that he also wanted to take this opportunity to try to see how well he had mastered the wood release. As he said that, Hinatan Nariku directly urged the Buddha statue under his feet to start moving. Boom boom boom. The huge Buddha statue, even if it is just a simple moving forward, everything along the way will be destroyed. 100-meter-high mountain peak can only be crushed powerlessly in front of the 1,000-armed Buddha. The forest on the primitive island becomes transformed in front of this exaggerated Buddha statue. Like a weed, it was overwhelmed without any resistance. But, damn it! Afe felt angry at the same time and a little desperate at the same time. Facing the 1,000-armed Buddha, he knew very well that this was definitely not what he was. The strongest move he was proud to use could never withstand the opponent's thousands of attacks. Big Buddha. Helpless, but Afe could only forcefully control the Buddha statue under his feet and reach out to resist the opponent's attack. Boom. Continuous collisions and explosions sounded. A contest between 2 behemoths. However, Afe looked abnormal in the first place. Tall Buddha statue. In front of Hyuga Nariku's 1,000-armed Buddha, he is as helpless as a child. The number of arms is far inferior. Even the strength is no match for the opponent. Afe let out a miserable roar. All the arms of the Buddha statue under his feet were exhausted. However, the opponent's 1,000-armed Buddha didn't even use 100 arms. The gap is so huge. Only at this level, do you dare to claim to have mastered the strongest move of the first Hokage? Hyuga Nariku snorted, and continued to attack without mercy. The arm of the 1,000-armed Buddha continued to hit Afe's Buddha statue. Boom. Continuous and dense explosions resounded throughout the sky. A huge over 300 meters high the Buddha statue could only stay on the spot like a target, being beaten to pieces. Roar. The 3-tailed Isobutsu in the distance suddenly started to move. It was spinning at high speed like a top, rushing towards Hinatan Nariku. What can a mere 3-tailed creature do? Hyuga Nariku looked at the 3 Megatama Sharinan in the right eye of the 3 tails and said with disdain. The 1,000-armed Buddha bowed slightly and grabbed the 3 tails that were spinning and rushing towards him. Crash! There was a crisp sound inside the Buddha statue that bent down to reach out. There was a sound. The three tails that rushed over at high speed were directly caught in the hands of the Buddha. The thick armor of the three tails failed to cause any damage to the palm of the thousand arms Buddha. Hey hey hey! What is he going to do? In the three-tailed consciousness space, Goju Yagura looked at the giant Buddha with a horrified look on his face as he grabbed the three-tailed one and held it in the air. The three-tailed one? How so? It is a three-tailed beast. How could he be caught in his hands like a little chicken? However, before Sanwei could express his anger, it felt like its body was moving quickly in the air. What is he going to do? Three Tails looked at the waving arms of the Buddha statue outside. The three tails, which was grabbed high, could not move at all in the hands of the huge Buddha statue. It was smashed out like a sandbag. Boom! The entire primitive island was shaking. After being grabbed by the thousand-armed Buddha, the huge body of the three tails smashed a mountain down. Even though it was wrapped in thick armor, the three tails fell to the ground and could not move under the impact. The tailed beast was captured and thrown out. The ninjas watching here from a distance felt dazed. That was a tailed beast. How could they be caught and thrown out like this? However, this absurd and shocking scene actually happened in front of them. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Kumogakure forced me, and the Third Hokage persuaded me to die. Author, Uchiha Hokage. Chapter 116. The second-generation Hokage of the Dirty Soil who rushed towards Hinatan Naraka was obviously controlled by Sarutobi Hiruzen. Without any fluctuation in his eyes, he directly stabbed Hinatan Naraka with his kunao. And Sarutobi Hiruzen seized this opportunity. Step aside far away and start forming seals in your hands. He had learned his lesson before in Konoha. In order to save Sarutobi Asuma, who was being held by Hyuga Naraku, he rushed forward that time. Result: he was defeated by Hyuga Naraku without any resistance. He didn't even have a chance to activate the zombie sealing. If he hadn't been rescued by the mysterious man who called himself Uchiha Madara, he might have died in Konoha. From that time on, Sarutobi Hiruzen knew that he was no match for Hyuga Naraku in terms of physical skills. And his ninjutsu can hardly have any effect on Hinatan Naraku. Regardless of the exaggerated fire escape and thunder escape that Hinatan Naraku once showed, it's still the thousand-armed Buddha just now that can destroy almost everything. Sarutobi Hiruzen found that as a ninjutsu professor, most of the ninjutsu he mastered were of no use. The only ones that could be used were forbidden jutsu such as reincarnation in the earth or seal of the ghouls. And he wanted to use the technique of sealing off the corpses, and even asked others to help him buy time. Otherwise, I'm afraid he won't even have a chance to seal it. He had already been knocked down by Hinatan Naraku's acupuncture points. Therefore, he summoned the second Hokage Senju Tobirama in advance using the Earth reincarnation. In fact, he originally wanted to summon the fourth Hokage. With these two Hokages who mastered the Flying Thunder God technique, they could at least delay him until he could use the seal of the ghoul. However, the reincarnation of the fourth Hokage failed. Fortunately, the reincarnation of his teacher, the second Hokage Senju Tobirama, was successful. Ignoring Hyuga Naraku's taunt, Sarutobi Hiruzen immediately began to form seals after retreating far away. Hyuga Naraku didn't pay attention to Sarutobi Hiruzen's movements. Or rather, quite the opposite. He just needed someone to help him perform the forbidden technique of sealing the corpse. He needs to use the power of the god of death to peek into the supreme blood inheritance snare. Seeing that the second generation of the dirty soil was already in front of him, Hyuga Naraku raised his arm, and a yin-yang escape black rod shot out directly from his palm. Holding the yin-yang escape black rod in his hand, he slashed it directly at the second generation of Huatu. Poof! In the reincarnated body of the dirty land, one arm was easily cut off by the black rod. However, the next second, the second Hokage disappeared directly. The kunao he had held in his hand before was still shooting towards Hinatan Naraku. Flying Thunder God kunao. Hinatan Naraku's eyes noticed the Mori no Sen surgical technique on the kunao. Next moment, unsurprisingly, the second generation Hokage appeared behind him. I'm offended, the second Hokage senpai. Hyuga Naraku stretched out his hand and reached back, and a yin-yang escape black rod was stabbed directly into the body of the second Hokage. Immediately afterwards, Hyuga Naraku did not let the second Hokage escape again, and directly used the gravity of the reincarnation to attract him. Chi. Another black stick of yin and yang escape, nailing the second Hokage of the dirty land to the ground. What? Sarutobi Hiruzen was making seals while watching the situation here. He never expected that the second Hokage, who had mastered the Flying Thunder God technique, would be restrained by Hyuga Naraku so easily. However, this time is enough. Sarutobi Hiruzen had a ruthless look in his eyes. After quickly forming a seal, he put his hands together. The corpses are sealed away. A gust of dark wind is coming. Hinatan Naraku only felt that there seemed to be some desolate and lonely place connected to the real world. At the same time, a dim shadow appeared behind Sarutobi Hiruzen. Puff. Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't help spitting out a mouthful of blood. Behind him, the Shinigami wearing a wide white robe and red pointed horns appeared. A long red tongue, full of saliva. A handful of it. The short sword was bitten in the mouth by the god of death. Sarutobi Hiruzen felt a pain that hit his soul directly, making him unable to help spitting out blood. However, he felt very happy now. Hinatan Naraku, you are dead today. The zombie seal has been successfully launched. No matter how powerful Hyuga Naraku is, he cannot be the opponent of the god of death. Sarutobi Hiruzen laughed with joy. Even if they die together, he still wants to kill Hyuga Naraku. Moreover, after dying from the ghoul seal, Hyuga Naraku couldn't even return his soul to the Pure Land. He could only stay in the belly of the god of death. He could never escape. At the same time, after Sarutobi Hiruzen launched the ghoul seal, his control over the earth reincarnation also briefly failed. You are the fifth generation in the village, right? Let me go quickly, I have a way to undo the reincarnation of the dirty land. The second Hokage, who had just regained consciousness, said hurriedly. Although he had no independent consciousness during the battle after coming out of Kamui space, he was aware of the situation in the outside world. He had already seen the god-controlling robe of the fifth Hokage behind Hinatan Naraku. Hinatan Naraku pulled out the black rod without hesitation. The second Hokage stood up and quickly started to form seals, while explaining to Hyuga Naraku. If you are summoned by the reincarnation of the dirty earth in the future, you can get rid of the control as long as you follow the order of Zijo Shenyin Chen Hai. Hyuga Naraku. I know this. Also, I'm not dead yet, why are you giving me this popular science? Are you worried that one day I will be reincarnated as a human being when I die? Senju Tobirama didn't pay attention to Hinatan Naraku's speechless expression, and formed the seal directly, releasing the control. Wow! An invisible smoke dispersed. Senju Tobirama directly released the control of the reincarnation of the dirty land. Brother, you should also quickly form seals to release the control. Senju Tobirama shouted to his brother who had just regained consciousness. He understood his brother's power very clearly. If someone controlled him for evil, it would be difficult for anyone to stop him. What's going on now? Is this your filthy reincarnation, Tobirama? Senju Hashirama scratched his head in distress. However, seeing his brother urging him again and again, he immediately formed the seal and released the control. What else could it be? Monkey. Please explain to me, what's going on? Senju Tobirama looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen not far away with a cold face. Originally, after they were summoned from the Pure Land, they had been in the coffin. They never saw the person who summoned them. But, after coming out of the Kamui space with Hiruzen Sarutobi, Senju Tobirama immediately understood. It was his disciple, his most valued disciple, Hiruzen Sarutobi, who summoned him and his brother using the art of reincarnation. The person used to deal with it was even the fifth generation of the village. The first generation teacher, the second generation teacher, it's all Hinata Nariku's fault. It was he who betrayed the village with Hinata and Uchiha. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Hinata Nariku with hatred on his face. Danzo, and Koharu were all killed by this bastard. My two sons were also killed by this bastard. This bastard colluded with Hinata, Uchiha and other ninjas to drive away the Hokage from my village. It was all caused by this villain, Hinata Nariku. It was he who stole the village, and it was he who caused me to live like this. Kumogakure forced me, and the Third Hokage persuaded me to die. Author, Uchiha Hokage. Chapter 117. Sarutobi Hiruzen knew this clearly. After activating the zombie ceiling, he was certain to die today. But, just dying together with Hinata Nariku is not enough. He wanted to see Hyuga Nariku being deprived of the Hokage position by two previous Hokages. Just like him. He wanted to see what kind of ugly posture Hinata Nariku would have after losing everything. Not only did he want Hinata Nariku to die, he also wanted Hinata Nariku to be ruined before he died. He wants Hinata Nariku to regret what he did to him. However, the second Hokage was not fooled at all. Monkey! Do you think I'm an idiot? The second Hokage shouted angrily. If it was really Godei's fault, you summoned me and my eldest brother, why did you control our consciousness? If Sarutobi Hiruzen is really as innocent as he said, then, in order to get rid of the scourge of the village, even if it disturbs his soul, the second Hokage is willing to take action and do his disciple a favor. But, since he was after being summoned back from the Pure Land by the Evil Land reincarnation, his consciousness has been firmly controlled. If he wasn't guilty, why did he do this? He didn't even dare to talk to them, so what's there to argue with? Sarutobi Hiruzen opened his mouth, nothing can be said. It doesn't matter. Even if it doesn't ruin Hinata Nariku's reputation. After today, Hinata Nariku will be in the belly of the god of death and will never be reincarnated. Monkey, do you have nothing to say? The second Hokage's face was full of disappointment. He didn't understand. Why did his disciple become like this? Today, I will clean up the door myself. Having said that, the second Hokage's chakra burst out, and an astonishing momentum surged. The flying thunder god Kunao was thrown out one by one, and flew towards Sarutobi Hiruzen. After I capture you, I'll let you explain to me what's going on. The figure of the second Hokage flashed and appeared next to a Kunao. Second generation teacher, don't force me. There was a trace of cruelty in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes. The illusory palm of the death god behind him passed directly through his abdomen and grabbed the second Hokage. What? The second Hokage didn't see the god of death. However, he felt an unknown danger approaching. He didn't dare to stop at all, and retreated directly using the flying thunder god technique. What was that just now? The second Hokage said in surprise. He can still feel a chill in his soul. It's as if just 1 second later, his soul would leave his body. It should be that the corpses have been sealed away, right? The first Hokage said. He also knows this forbidden technique, and just saw Sarutobi Hiruzen's seal gesture. The corpses are sealed away. The second Hokage's face darkened. Of course he knew this forbidden technique. Only the caster can see the god of death. The person who is attacked can only feel that his soul is gradually leaving the body, but cannot see the existence of the god of death. However, what makes the second Hokage feel angry is, his disciple actually used the forbidden technique of corpse sealing to deal with him. Second generation teacher, my only goal is Hinata Naraku, I hope you won't hinder me. Sarutobi Hiruzen stared at Hinata Naraku with hatred on his face. Little monkey. The first Hokage felt a little stunned. The Sarutobi Hiruzen in front of him seemed to have completely changed from the young man in his memory. The current one has a face full of resentment and spits out blood, but he seems to be filled with joy that a great revenge is about to be avenged. How could a monkey become like this? The second Hokage couldn't help but said angrily. After being forced back by the god of death once, he no longer dared to rush forward directly. Even with his forbidden skills, there was no guarantee that he could escape from the unknown death god. Lose. Your disciple has done many things, the second Hokage senpai. Hinata Naraku said with a smile on his lips. As early as more than 10 years ago, he designed a trap to suppress Hatake Sakumo's prestige in order to ensure that his position as Hokage was stable. Hatake Sakumo. The second Hokage frowned. He had some impression of this name. In his impression, Hatake Sakumo was a good young man. I remember he was older than Tsunade. However, when he died, Hatake Sakumo Mao is not very old either. So his impression is not very deep. After Sarutobi Hiruzen let Hatake Sakumo fall into the trap he designed, he also spread messages in the village, causing Hatake Sakumo to commit suicide. 4 years ago, Hiruzen Sarutobi conspired with a mysterious man to release the Nine Tails from the village, killing the then 4th Hokage. A few months ago, because of the unreasonable demands of Kumogakure, Sarutobi Hiruzen wanted to hand me over to Kumogakure to settle the matter. Not long ago, Hiruzen Sarutobi cooperated with the mysterious man again, using the son of the 4th Hokage, the nine-tailed Jinchuriki, as a bargaining chip, and gained the support of Kirigakure controlled by the mysterious man. The reason is that he, Sarutobi Hiruzen, can return to the village and become the Hokage. He even led the 4 tribes of Sarutobi, Shimura, Mitaman, and Tenjin to launch a rebellion, hoping to destroy the Hinata and Uchiha tribes. Hinata Naraku told everything that Sarutobi Hiruzen had done, sentence by sentence. Of course, the Nine Tails rebellion actually has nothing to do with Sarutobi Hiruzen. However, now everyone thinks it is related, then it was you Sarutobi Hiruzen who did it. This is what monkeys have done. The second generation Hokage frowned crazily. How can this be the Hokage? This is simply a lunatic. Hey, little monkey. Is what Godei said just now true? The second Hokage asked directly to Sarutobi Hiruzen. He couldn't believe it. His disciple had actually done so many crazy things. Sarutobi Hiruzen said nothing and stared with hatred in his eyes. Hyaga Naraku. He no longer needs to explain. No matter what he says, it is impossible for the 2 previous Hokages to believe him anymore. But today, Hyaga Naraku must die. How did the little monkey become like this? The first Hokage held his forehead incomprehensibly. He really couldn't imagine how a person could change so much. Monkey! The second Hokage shouted angrily. I misjudged you at first. You don't deserve to be Hokage at all. I, Senju Tobirama, in the name of the second Hokage of Konoha, deprive you of the title of Hokage. You are not worthy of being the 3rd Hokage of Konoha. Never mind. Sarutobi Hiruzen roared heartbreakingly. I've lost everything. Even if you don't admit that I am Hokage, the 2nd generation teacher. Today, I must let Hinata Naraku die. Kumogakure forced me, and the 3rd Hokage persuaded me to die. Author, Uchiha Hokage. Chapter 119. You forced me to do this. It's you who caused me to fall into this situation. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Hyaga Naraku who was getting closer and roared hysterically. If Hyaga Naraku had just died. How could he be like this? He should be the 3rd Hokage of Konoha now. Fire escape, fire dragon bullet. Earth escape, Earth Dragon Bullet. Sarutobi Hiruzen quickly formed seals in his hands and shouted. Compound Ninja Technique, Earth Dragon Flame Style. The Earth Dragon bullets intertwined with flames shot towards Hinata Nariku. It's useless. Hyuga Nariku looked at the struggling Sarutobi Hiruzen and shook his head. He raised his hand slightly, and the repulsive force of the Tsensegan easily dispersed the ferocious blow. The Earth Dragon bullet was even knocked back by the repulsive force, knocking the back. Sarutobi Hiruzen was injured. Puff. Sarutobi Hiruzen spurted out a mouthful of blood, dyeing his chest red. I don't understand why you can take it for granted that others should pay for you. Is it just because you have been Hokage for more than 30 years? Hyuga Nariku approached slowly, pulled out his sword and pointed it at Sarutobi Hiruzen. Shimura Danzo, Mito Kato and Koharu. These people are like this. They think that others should pay for them. If you dare to refuse, you are treasonous. If you dare to fight back, you will never be allowed to stay. It was because you were unwilling to pay for the village in the first place. It's all you bastard who stole my position as Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen glared at Hinata Nariku with a face filled with resentment. So what? Hyuga Nariku asked rhetorically. Didn't I win the battle with Ren and Yunyin? Even, I haven't lost anyone yet. The second generation Hokage also came over at this time. Yunyin, what's going on? The second Hokage asked with a frown. Is there anything going on between the village and Kumogakure? Ha! Hinata Nariku chuckled and briefly recounted what happened not long ago. In short, Kumogakure wants Konoha to hand over me as the murderer, while Sarutobi Hiruzen is willing to hand me over to settle the matter. Even, for this reason, he sent people to assassinate me several times. Hyuga Nariku said without any fluctuation in his voice. Absurd. The second Hokage yelled angrily. How could you agree to Yunyin's unreasonable request? Peace is achieved through fighting, not through compromise. After his brother's death, didn't he still lead the village to defeat Kumogakure? Although something unexpected happened when he concluded the peace agreement. Yunyin did this a bit too much. The first Hokage also nodded and said. He does love peace and does not like war. But he will not let the people in his village be bullied by others, and even think about giving an explanation to others. Let alone take the initiative to do so. Kill your own people and go and explain to the other party. Why are you like this, monkey? The second Hokage looked at Hiruzen Sarutobi, who didn't feel he was wrong at all, and couldn't help but shake his head. He once chose Hiruzen Sarutobi as the third Hokage. He also knew that Sarutobi was often indecisive. But he never expected that Sarutobi would one day betray his family in exchange for peace. You have committed so many sins in your life, are you ready to die now? The Kusanagi sword in Hyuga Nariku's hand was aimed at Sarutobi Hiruzen's throat. No, I can't die. Sarutobi Hiruzen's body trembled. This imminent threat to his life made his desire to survive completely burst out. Uchiha Madara. Just watch from here, come out, and save me. Empress Sarutobi Hiruzen backed away, looking around in panic. That time in Konoha, didn't the masked man who called himself Uchiha Madara save him once? Although Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't believe that the other party was Uchiha Habara. But as long as the other party can save him again. It doesn't matter who the masked man calls himself in the future. Spot. The first Hokage looked stunned and said. Uchiha Madara? He's here? No, how could he still be alive? The second Hokage's expression changed drastically. Uchiha Madara must be dead. After the battle at the Valley of the End, he personally brought Uchiha Madara's body back to Konoha. Later, for the purpose of follow-up research, he brought Uchiha Madara's body back to Konoha. Uchiha Madara's body was hidden in a deep mountain. But later, there were too many things to study and too many things to do, so it was delayed. By the way, among the three-tailed eyes before, The right eye was the Sharingan. The first Hokage suddenly said. Although he had been wrapped in white Zetsu Afe before, and his consciousness was strictly controlled by Hiruzen Sarutobi. But he has always been aware of the situation in the outside world. He still remembers the three-tailed attack. When Hinata Naraka fell, her right eye was the Sharingan of the three Megatama. Sharingan. It's the Uchiha clan again. The second Hokage snorted. Back then, that guy Uchiha Madara took Kuwabai and had a fight with his elder brother. The result was that his elder brother died a few years later. Now there is another Uchiha using Sharingan control the three tails. I said before that Hiruzen Sarutobi teamed up with a mysterious man and released the nine tails in the village, killing the then fourth Hokage and his wife. Also, before, Sarutobi Hiruzen took the fourth son, the nine-tailed Jinchuriki, as a trade object and gave it to the mysterious man wearing a mask. That mysterious man only has one right eye exposed. Hyuga Naruko explained slowly. Only one eye? Could it be Izanagi? The second Hokage's expression changed drastically. As an old enemy of Uchiha, Senju was also very clear about Uchiha's disgraceful history. The second Hokage knew that the Uchiha clan had Izanagi, a researcher who could reverse life and death. Extreme pupil technique. Could it be that Uchiha Madara activated Izanagi and was actually not dead? The second Hokage frowned and thought carefully. He could be sure that the body of Uchiha Madara he brought back to Konoha was the real corpse. And according to the second Hokage's understanding, Izanagi of the Uchiha clan, the duration is about 5 minutes. However, as the strongest Uchiha, it is possible that the Izanagi activated by Uchiha Madara will last longer. This is unlikely, right? The first Hokage shook his head in disbelief. If Madara had not died, he didn't know how he would feel now. He didn't know whether he should be worried or happy. Killing his best friend for the village was his life the most regretful thing in. However, he can control the three tails with just one eye, and even targets the nine tails many times. Even if the other party is not Uchiha Madara, he must be inseparable from Uchiha Madara. The second Hokage said with a serious expression. Hinata Naruko nodded secretly in his heart. This is right. Sarutobi Hiruzen. Seeing that Uchiha Madara never came out, he was completely panicked. He formed seals with his hands, trying to control the two of them. Two Hokages reincarnated in the dirty land. Still want to control us? How unrepentant. The second Hokage immediately snorted and said. As soon as he saw the seal in Sarutobi's hand, he knew what he was thinking. The reincarnation of the earth is a ninjutsu I invented, and you actually try to use it to control me. Monkey, not only have you become someone I don't recognize, you've also become so brave that I don't even recognize you anymore. Sarutobi Hiruzen became more and more desperate, but he still shouted without giving up. It is not my fault. It was all that Uchiha Madara who bewitched me. The second Hokage looked at his disciple who had completely lost his composure and couldn't help but sigh. Gode, you are the current Hokage of the village, so it is up to you to execute him. Now it seems that it was a mistake for him to choose Hiruzen Sarutobi as the third Hokage. Now, this mistake should be corrected by the current Hokage of the village. Hiruzen Sarutobi shuddered. Originally, it was the second Hokage. He was chosen as the Hokage. Now, the second generation Hokage has announced his death sentence. History, at this moment, has a wonderful response. I am not wrong. I can't die. It's all Madara Uchiha who bewitched me. It's all your fault, it's all Hinata Naruko's fault, you damn bastard. Sarutobi Hiruzen roared like a bereaved dog. Tisk. The Kusanagi sword in Hinata Naruko's hand penetrated Sarutobi Hiruzen's throat without any hindrance. It's already this time, why are you still talking about this? Hyuga Naruko pulled out the Kusanagi sword and shook off the blood on it. This sword came from Orochimaru. It pierced the throat of Sarutobi Shinichuk. It cut off Shimura Danzo's head. It penetrated Sarutobi's Ma's heart. Now it is used to send Sarutobi Hiruzen on his way. It's just right. Sarutobi Hiruzen's last expression was frozen in that resentful look, and he stopped chattering. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Kumogakure forced me, and the Third Hokage persuaded me to die. Author, Uchiha Hokage. Chapter 120. It seems that there should be no suspense about the outcome. On the edge of the primitive island, Terumi looked at it from a distance and sighed. The first Hokage of Konoha, who was wrapped in a strange white creature, used the 300-meter-tall giant Buddha, which had just been completely destroyed by Hyuga Nariku's thousand-armed Buddha. That was the legendary ninja god, and he actually lost. Ghost Lantern Manu murmured to himself. Although he could not imagine the strength of the first Hokage. But he believed in the judgment of their family's second-generation Mizukage Kitten Genzuki. A ninja as powerful as a god. And now. But he was defeated by Konoha's current fifth Hokage. Inukasaki Kisame looked at the battle that was gradually subsiding in the distance. His face was uncertain. I even want to scold my mother in my heart. Can that Uchiha Madara be more reliable? What a Eye of the Moon plan. But if you can't beat the fifth Hokage, why are you dreaming about it? And if that Uchiha Madara loses, the fourth Mizukage will definitely escape control. And he has now taken refuge in that Uchiha Madara. When the time comes, will the fourth Mizukage, who has regained his consciousness, want to kill himself? Kisame's scalp feels numb just thinking about it. Kisame, you said before that the fourth Mizukage would deal with the other's fifth Hokage. Did the fourth Mizukage tell you this personally? Terumi looked unkind and stared at Kisame Kisaki. Now, it can be confirmed that the fourth Mizukage is controlled by someone. So, does Kisame know about this? You know, Kisame is now taking over after joining the Kirigakure Umbu. He can be said to be the person closest to the fourth Mizukage in Kirigakure. Could it be possible? Kisame has been bribed by the person who secretly controls the fourth Mizukage. This is what Mizukage-sama said to me personally, but I don't know if Mizukage-sama was controlled at that time. Keikisaki Kisame paused for a few seconds and then said. Yeah? Terumi. Mei asked unmoved. Then, I would like to trouble you to wait here for a while until the fourth generation comes over, and then I can explain it clearly. Terumi looked at the three tails on a knocked-down mountain in the distance. There is no need to continue the battle. On the one hand, they are no match for Konoha. The number of both sides is almost the same, both are more than 2,000 people. What's more, even if you don't take into account the 2,000 Konoha ninjas, Konoha's fifth Hokage alone can kill them all by himself. It's as big as three tails. In front of the thousand-armed Buddha of Konoha's fifth Hokage, they can only be thrown out like sandbags. There is no point in them continuing to resist. On the other hand, this battle is inexplicable in the first place. Their Mizukage in Kirigakure village is secretly controlled by someone. After doing it for a long time, they were controlled by a I don't know where the mysterious man's order came from to start a war with Konoha. No problem, I will explain it to Mizukage-sama in person. Kisame nodded, his attitude seemed to be very serious, but in the middle of the sentence he suddenly burst into flames and fled towards the sea. What else can you explain? The right thing to do is to run away quickly. If he doesn't wait for Yondaime to come back, he will definitely be killed. Want to escape? The corners of Terumi-Mei's lips raised slightly. She had been on guard against Kisame just now. She quickly formed a seal with her hand, and a thick acid spurted out. Melting escape, the art of melting monsters. A large amount of acid liquid exuding a trace of mist swept toward Kisame overwhelmingly. Cut. Kisame cursed secretly in his heart. He pulled out the big sword Same had on his shoulder and lightly swiped it towards the acid. The dissolved chakra in the acid was quickly absorbed by Same Hada. However, it was only so short. At the same time, there was already a Kumogakure ninja stopping him. Kisame, you guy really betrayed Mizukage-sama. Ao and Kitten Manjutsu blocked Kisame's path together. Don't get me wrong, I said I would explain it clearly to Mizukage-sama. Kisame looked at the large number of Kumogakure ninjas surrounding him, and felt secretly bitter. He had only taken refuge in that Uchiha Madara not long ago. It had only been a few days since he took over the Kumogakure Umbu. However, he had absolutely no choice but to unexpectedly, the guy who calls himself Uchiha Madara is so unreliable. The Eye of the Moon plan didn't wait. If he couldn't run away today, he might be torn alive by Gojo Yagure who regained consciousness. Then why are you running? Ao shouted to Kisame. The Kumogakure ninjas next to him were already convinced. Kisame had indeed taken refuge in the mysterious person who controlled the fourth Mizukage. Therefore, after seeing that the fourth Mizukage might be able to break free from control and regain consciousness, and was about to run away in a hurry, Kisame sighed secretly. I have no choice but to try my best to find a way to get out. At this moment, in the twisted vortex of time and space, an arm suddenly appeared and rested on Kisame's shoulder. Don't resist, I'll take you out of here. The voice of Uchiha Obito came over. However, he is now using the voice of Uchiha Madara in his memory. Before, he saw that Hinata Nariku was not killed by the ghoul seal, and he was horrified. He did not go out to fight Hyuga Nariku. Even if Sarutobi Hiruzen asked him for help, he did not dare to risk going out. At that time, Hyuga Nariku was too close to Sarutobi Hiruzen. Even if he used Izanagi, he was not sure can rescue Hiruzen Sarutobi. Moreover, in Obito's view, Hiruzen Sarutobi's value has been exhausted. When Hiruzen Sarutobi was practicing the art of reincarnation, he had asked Baizetsu to secretly watch and learn. The zombies have been sealed away. Sarutobi Hiruzen also tried it, but it didn't work on Hyuga Nariku. Then, the former third-generation Hokage has no value. Naturally, it is not worth the risk for him to save the last time. However, Kisame can still be saved. One more person in the Akatsuki organization can have more strength. Kisame breathed a sigh of relief when he heard this familiar voice. At least, he can survive today. However, at this moment, accompanied by the sound of breaking wind, a Kunao flew towards Kisame. What's this? Kisame, who was being sucked into the Kamui space by Obito, said blankly. There was a strange eye pupil technique on the Kunao handle. This is... Uchiha Obito's pupils shrank suddenly. Could it be the flying thunder god Kunao? Sure enough. The next second, in the position of the Kunao, Hinata Nariku's figure suddenly appeared. The Kusanagi sword in his hand was still stained with wet blood. He slashed hard at Obito Uchiha. Tisk. Obito, who had not yet had time to return to the Kamui space, had only time to hurriedly activate Izanagi, and saw the Kusanagi sword slashing at him. His entire upper body was slashed from the shoulders were chopped down diagonally. However, the upper body with the head disappeared. Did you run away again? Hyuga Nariku looked at most of his body that was left in place. He had been paying attention when Hiruzen Sarutobi asked Obito for help. But what disappointed him was that Obito did not save Sarutobi Hiruzen. However, just as he came back and approached here, he suddenly felt the familiar fluctuations of space and time ninjutsu. Without having time to think about it, he threw a flying thunder god Kunao towards Kisame. However, he's still a step too late. Fifth generation, your flying thunder god technique has almost surpassed me. The second Hokage, who felt it slower, sighed with emotion. He could naturally recognize that Hyuga Nariku had just used the Flying Thunder God technique. It was even transmitted through the moving coordinates, Flying Thunder God / It seems that the village doesn't need us to worry about it. The first Hokage, who finally arrived, said with great relief. Wait, this is... The second Hokage looked at the half of his body left on the ground and slowly disappeared. Izanagi? Is it the Uchiha who controls the three tails? Is it really Madara? Impossible. The first Hokage frowned and thought. If it was Uchiha Madara, no matter how powerful Hyuga Nariku was, he wouldn't be able to force Izanagi out so easily. This mysterious man who secretly controls Kumogakure Mizukage and Three Tails seems to be a bit weak. Kumogakure forced me, and the third Hokage persuaded me to die. Author, Uchiha Hokage. Chapter 121. In the Divine Space. Uchiha Obito, who had lost most of his body, lay helplessly on the ground. Izanagi's time has not passed yet, and the pain he feels now is real. The second time. Obito gritted his teeth in pain, and the hatred in his heart surged. This was the second time he was killed by Hyuga Nariku. Both times, when he wanted to bring people into the Kamui space, Hyuga Nariku caught the opportunity. Cut in half. An indescribable feeling of shame filled Obito's heart, making him want to die with shame and anger. He was killed twice by the same person in almost the same way. If it weren't for Izanagi, he would have died. He is already dead. And if he dies, the Eye of the Moon plan will be nonsense. His desire to create a world with Lin will become a complete fantasy. It's really embarrassing, Mr. Madara. Keikisaki Kisame, who was caught in the Kamui space, grinned and looked at Obito, who was lying on the ground gasping in pain. He felt bursts of pleasure in his heart. This guy who called himself Uchiha Madara said what a grand Eye of the Moon plan, but it turned out to be so unreliable. He was almost captured on the spot by the Kumogakure ninja today. I'm very curious, are you really the legendary ninja Shura? Keikisaki Kisame asked with a sarcastic smile. How could Madara Uchiha, who ended the troubled times with the first Hokage, be so weak? His body was cut like this. If you don't believe it, you can try it on me. Uchiha Obito endured the pain and said to Kisame coldly. Now Izanagi's time is not over yet. Any attack Kisame launches against him is meaningless. This is why he dares to say this. Kisame was silent for a while, and then said. Don't get me wrong, I have betrayed Yagura and will not betray him again easily. Betrayed by the Watermelon Mountain Blowfish Ghost, he really hopes to see the world of infinite Tsukuyomi. Moreover, he is in this strange place now. If he doesn't rely on this Uchiha Madara, he may not be able to do anything. Leave. Hope so. Uchiha Obito said with a cold snort. He didn't believe Kisame's words at all. A ninja who was born in the blood mist said he would not betray, but he wouldn't believe even a word. Just right. Izanagi's time is up. Here we are. Uchiha Obito's missing lower body suddenly appeared and stood up. The blood stains that had been shed before disappeared. It was as if he had never been injured. Call. Obito breathed a sigh of relief. The pain of having his body cut off just now was finally over. A shadow is projected from the divine space. Uchiha Obito said to Hinata Nariku from a distance. As expected of the fifth Hokage of Konoha, I miscalculated this time. Obito looked at Goda Kibana Yagura who had come over here. When he was killed just now, his control over the three tails disappeared directly. Goda Kibana Yagura successfully regained consciousness and exited the tailed beast form. However, Yagura's condition is not very good now. The fourth Mizukage, it's a pity that you, this plaything, escaped. Uchiha Obito said with tut. What a pity. His revenge on Yagura is not enough. If possible, Obito hopes to let Yagura be controlled by him, and see Kumogakure village destroyed in his hands bit by bit. But Yagura can only watch, unable to do anything. Only in this way can Kumogakure and the fourth Mizukage who killed Lin receive the punishment they deserve. You bastard, are you Madara Uchiha? Yakura, who is as tall as a child, is extremely angry at this time. His consciousness was detained by Genjutsu before, but he is also aware of the situation in the outside world. When Uchiha Obito instigated Kisame, he also heard this mysterious man claiming to be its Uchiha Madara. Is it really Uchiha Madara? How can it be? The second Hokage couldn't understand. Although he dislikes Uchiha Madara very much. However, he had to admit that that guy was indeed very strong. In the entire ninja world at that time, except for his eldest brother, it could be said that there was no rival. But the guy in front of me was easily killed by Godei once and forced out Izanagi. Are you Madara? The first Hokage asked with a frown. The other person is just a shadow now, and he can't feel any chakra breath. Therefore, he can't determine whether the other person is Uchiha Madara through perception. However, this guy's voice is indeed it was Uchiha Madara's voice back then. For a moment, even the first Hokage didn't dare to tell whether the other person was his former best friend. This, who knows? Uchiha Obito said indifferently. In any case, he would not dare to claim to be Uchiha Madara directly in front of the first Hokage. He can only use this ambiguous statement now. I'm the one destined to rule this world. Whether it's 3 tails or 9 tails, they will all belong to me. Be it Konoha or Kumogakure, they will eventually be destroyed in my hands. You can stop me 1,000 times, but I only need to succeed once to do it. I still have many ways. We will meet again. As he spoke, Uchiha Obito's voice gradually became distant, and the shadow disappeared in the swirling distortion. Destroying Konoha, you really dare to say that? The second Hokage snorted coldly. Even if that guy is not Uchiha Madara, he must be inseparable from Uchiha Madara. The second Hokage also came into contact with Uchiha Madara many times back then. He was extremely familiar with the other party's voice. Therefore, although there is no way to detect whether the other party is Uchiha Madara through chakra, the second Hokage can at least confirm the other party's voice, and Uchiha Madara was exactly the same back then. He must not be Madara. The first Hokage held his forehead and said. The guy wearing the mask is different from Madara in terms of strength and personality. The target is the tailed beast, and he also wants to destroy the village. This is exactly the same thing as Uchiha Madara did back then. Even if he is not Uchiha Madara, he must have inherited Uchiha Madara's thoughts. The second Hokage said coldly. He now very much doubts that Uchiha Madara was not dead at all back then, but used Izanagi to deceive him and his brother. The masked man just now was either Uchiha Madara or Uchiha Habara's men. There is no need for us 2 dead people to worry about these things. There are already 5 generations in the village. The first Hokage said with a laugh. Although the experience of being reincarnated by Sarutobi Hiruzen was terrible, at least he met the outstanding juniors of the village. That's Madara. Godei may not be his opponent. The second Hokage frowned. Although Hyuga Nariku defeated him easily before, he did not think that if Uchiha Madara was really still alive, this young 5th Hokage would be his opponent. Don't worry, at least the 5th generation of wood release is no longer inferior to mine, and even my true 1,000 hands can be used without relying on magic. The first Hokage said with great joy. Moreover, the 5th generation's chakra amount is already higher than mine. What? The expression of the 2nd generation Hokage changed drastically. When Baijuafei was wrapped in the dirty earth and fought with the 1st generation, he had been in the coffin in the Kamui space. He couldn't see those battles. If you look carefully, you can indeed feel an unfathomable amount of chakra. The second Hokage looked at Hinata Nariku with a surprised expression. Even, as his elder brother said. In his perception, Hinatan Nariku's current chakra amount is even more than that of his elder brother at his peak. If this is the case, he seems to be able to understand that he can use thousands of hands without magic. The traces of the Mudun battle he saw before were thought to have been made by his elder brother. Unexpectedly, it turned out that both sides were involved. Chow the Konoha ninjas who came here were also surprised. Has the fifth generation of lords surpassed the first generation of Hokage? This is what the first generation of adults said personally. I didn't expect that the fifth generation lord was already so powerful, that even the first generation lord, who was called the god of ninja, would admit him. Hyuga Nariku didn't pay attention to these compliments. His yang release has been increased to the extreme, reaching the 6 paths level. And the first Hokage was only the strongest among the 6 paths during his lifetime. Sarutobi Hiruzen has been executed by me. Hyuga Nariku announced to the Konoha ninjas. He waved to the distance and used gravity to pull the body of Sarutobi Hiruzen that he had dropped before. When a group of Konoha ninjas saw this, they were overjoyed. This old guy is finally dead. He colluded with outsiders to attack the village, and launched a rebellion while the 5th generation leader was on the expedition. This old guy should have been killed long ago. He should not have been allowed to be Hokage in the first place. The 4th generation was killed by him and that god. The 2nd Hokage couldn't help but sigh as he listened to the angry and joyful scoldings of the Konoha ninjas. This disciple of his has completely lost his heart. Are these all ninjas from the village? That's great. The first Hokage looked at a group of ninjas wearing Konoha forehead protectors, his eyes filled with relief. With you here, Gode, I don't need to worry about the village's affairs anymore. The 2nd generation Hokage said with concentration. He originally wanted to take advantage of the opportunity of being reincarnated from the dirt to eliminate the enemies targeting the village one by one. However, since the village now has a reliable enough Hokage, he and his elder brother doesn't need to worry anymore. The future of the village is entrusted to you. The first Hokage didn't dwell too much on it. After saying that, he untied the body of the earth reincarnation. In his opinion, he was dead. The affairs of the village can be left to future generations without any worries. There is no need to worry about the body of the earth reincarnation. Turned into scraps of paper. The illusory spirit returned to the Pure Land. There aren't many people I know in this era, so let's leave like this. The 2nd generation Hokage saw that his elder brother had returned to the Pure Land with satisfaction, and he also formed a seal and left. Hyuga Nariku looked at the 2 Hokages whose souls had returned to the Pure Land, and said nothing. His goal was the immortal blood successor snare. Since he knew what was ahead the scenery, then no matter what, you have to go and see it. You, the 4th Mizukage, were controlled by that mysterious man before. Will you surrender now? Hyuga Nariku looked at the Kirigakure ninjas with indifferent eyes. Gojo Yagura, who was extremely weak, looked at each other with Terumi Mei and others, and said helplessly. We Kirigakure, surrender. Kumogakure forced me, and the 3rd Hokage persuaded me to die. Author, Uchiha Hokage. Chapter 122. Inside Kirigakure village. More than 2,000 Kirigakure ninjas who had gone on an expedition had returned to the village. The content of this battle was also spread quickly. Mizukage-sama, is someone secretly controlling you? Both the ordinary villagers and the ninjas of Kirigakure were shocked by the news. The 4th Mizukage, Tachibana Yagura, was quite normal when he first came to power. Kirigakure's blood mist policy started from the period of the 3rd Mizukage. It had already started. Yagura only continued this policy. In fact, because of the incident where Zabuza Mamakai killed all the students in the same period, the blood mist policy was somewhat restrained. However, just a few years ago, Gojo Yagura, but his temperament suddenly changed. He became reclusive. Only the most trusted Umbu had the opportunity to see Yagura himself. Along with this, came the increasingly stringent blood mist policy. The atmosphere of the entire Kirigakure village, it has become extremely deserted. Even in broad daylight, few people can be seen on the street. Even, not only ordinary ninjas. Many ninja clans have also suffered a big blow. Kirigakure, the snow clan who was once famous in the ninja world, has completely disappeared from the village. The second generation of the Mizukage Kito Genzuki clan, now only 3 melons and 2 dates are left. Many people are dissatisfied with Yagura's actions. Assassinations of Mizukage often occur. Many ninjas in the village, they even defected. Even Kirigakure's 7 ninja swordsmen and the holder of the beheading sword, Lokwa Juzo, have defected from the village. However, only now do they know. The temperament of the 4th Mizukage Goda Kibana Yagura change, it turned out to be secretly controlled. What kind of bastard controlled the 4th generation? I heard from those who went on the expedition that that person seemed to call himself Madara Uchiha. Uchiha Madara? Is it that Uchiha Madara from Konoha? How could it be possible? When has he been? In the ninja world, any ninja with any knowledge has heard of Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. These are the only 2 ninjas who are called god level. Under these 2 people, the one who received the highest praise was none other than Hanzo, the Sanshouai who was known as the demigod in a Megakure village. It's not impossible to live that long. Isn't Elder Genshi a contemporary of the first Mizukage-sama? That person is not necessarily Uchiha Madara, and the 4th generation himself is not sure who the other person is. I heard that the other party has Sharingan, he must be an Uchiha from Konoha. He shouldn't be from Konoha. Didn't that mysterious man take in the 3rd Hokage who defected from Konoha before? Before, Konoha issued an ultimatum to Kirigakure, asking Kirigakure to hand over the traitorous ninja Sarutobi Hiruzen. At that time, they thought this was ridiculous. Whether it was Konoha's Hokage who defected, or the Hokage came to Kirigakure after defecting. This both things seem extremely ridiculous. However, now that they know that Yagura is controlled by Genjutsu, the villagers and ninjas of Kirigakure have also reacted. The mysterious man who controlled the 4th generation was the one who took in the 3rd Hokage of Konoha and asked us to go to war with Konoha. Is this bastard playing with us as if we were fools? I heard that the 4th Hokage of Konoha seemed to be killed by that mysterious man who teamed up with the 3rd Hokage of Konoha to release the 9 tails. After the words fell, everyone looked at each other. The 4th generation Hokage of Konoha was killed because the 3rd generation Hokage colluded with the mysterious man. Their 4th generation Mizukage was secretly controlled by the same mysterious man for many years. Konoha was released because of the mysterious man. Kuwabai, many people died. Kirigakure died because of the mysterious man's blood mist policy. The 2 villages seemed to have a sense of being brothers. No, that mysterious man could even control the 4th generation as the 3-tailed Jinhuriki, and was assisted by the 3rd Hokage of Konoha. Why was he still defeated? Someone suddenly wondered. You should be glad you were not part of this expedition. A Kirigakure ninja who returned from the battle said. There was a strong look of shock on his face. The 5th Hokage of Konoha used a huge Buddha statue over 1,000 meters high to grab the 3 tails in his hand and threw it out. What? A group of people were stunned. Many ninjas knew what the concept of 3 tails was. It was tens of meters tall. A symbol of disaster. It was actually thrown out. The residence of Elder Yuanchi Kirigakure. Genshi just finished listening to Terumi Mei's report and couldn't recover for a long time. As a contemporary of the first Mizukage, he is extremely familiar with the power of wood release. That is the power of the gods that can truly level the ninja world and end the troubled times. Did you meet the first Hokage of Konoha? Master Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly and said. It is indeed the first Hokage. It can be seen from the attitude of the 5th Hokage of Konoha. Not only the first Hokage, but also the 2nd Hokage appeared. Terumi. Mei replied seriously. She doesn't even know how she did it now. Why do two people who have been dead for who knows how many years appear again? Reincarnation in dirty soil. Genji nodded slightly. He knew this forbidden technique developed by the second-generation Hokage of Konoha. In the First Ninja World War, the second-generation Hokage had used the dirty soil reincarnation many times. Cho from Sunagakure village, Iwagakure village, the second-generation Tsuchikage Mu, these people have all seen this forbidden technique that can summon the dead to fight. They unanimously commented that this is a shoddy ninjutsu. Of course, Genji believes that if this forbidden technique can be mastered by them, in their own hands, I'm afraid they wouldn't say that. The person who controlled the fourth generation took in the third generation Hokage of Konoha, so it makes sense that he could control the reincarnation of the dirty land. Master Yuan nodded, then moved his brows slightly. However, what is that white creature you are talking about that enveloped the first Hokage in battle? Even with his knowledge, he doesn't know what Baiju is. I don't know, I don't even think it can be considered a human being. Terumi Mei smiled bitterly and shook her head. But no one would always talk about what does it feel like to have a bowel movement. Forget about it. Yuanqi nodded and didn't care. Maybe it was the help of the mysterious man who controlled Yagura. That white creature controlled the first Hokage and used a 100-meter-tall wooden man, or even a huge Buddha statue more than 300 meters tall. That's right. Terumi. Mei said with lingering fear. The fifth Hokage of Konoha was even more exaggerated. The last Buddha statue he used was over 1,000 meters high and reached straight into the clouds. Even the size of the three tails was easily caught in his hand. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, Terumi Mei wouldn't have believed this. 3 tails. That's a tailed beast. He caught the tailed beast in his hand and even threw it out. If it hadn't been smashed by the thrown 3 tails when she reached the mountain peak, she began to wonder if the 3-tailed one was fake. These experiences were like a dream. Thousands of meters of Buddha statues. Master Yuan whispered to himself. He also didn't understand such a would escape ninjutsu. It should be said that Senju Hashirama could defeat everyone except Uchiha Madara at that time if he could use the Bokujin technique at most. He didn't know until today that Mudun has such a powerful move. After thinking about it, Genji even felt a little sad. Even their first Mizukage, Kirigakure, was not qualified to let Senju Hashirama use this move. I am afraid. Back then, the only one who had seen this move was Madara Uchiha. Even the first generation Kage from the major ninja villages had already succumbed when they saw the 100-meter-tall Bokuto or Susanoo. Konoha, this is another strong man like the first Hokage. Yuanqi sighed with awe in his tone. For such a powerful person who is completely beyond their ability to understand. They can only hope that the other party can be as peace-loving as the first generation Hokage. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Kumogakure forced me, and the third Hokage persuaded me to die. Author, Uchiha Hokage. Chapter 123. The Land of Rain. Inside a dark cave. One after another, illusory figures slowly emerged. This is the magic of the lantern body that Pain has mastered. Members of the Akatsuki organization can communicate with each other even if they are thousands of miles apart. Why is there another sudden meeting? Don't take up too much of my time. The dull voice of the Crimson Sand Scorpion came out through the Fei Liuhu puppet. There seemed to be a lot more people. Wrong. Are you, Kisame? Loquatjozo looked around and was surprised to find a familiar figure. As a ninja from Kirigakure village, he was no stranger to dried persimmon Kisame. Loquatjozo, it turns out you have also joined this organization. Keikisaki Kisame has put on the black and red cloud robe of the Akatsuki organization. Next to him, so does Uchiha Obito, who is wearing a whirlpool mask. These two are new members of the organization. The emotionless voice of Tendo Pain came over. Not long ago, that Uchiha Madara suddenly came back and said that he had something important to announce. Not only did he bring back a new member, he also expressed that he would go to Akatsuki Weave the front. Although I don't know what happened. However, for Nagato, it is also a good thing for the Akatsuki organization to have more available manpower. This is Fei, he will team up with Zetsu. Pen tilted his head slightly in Obito's direction and said. As for Kisame, you team up with Loquat Jozo. Keikisaki Kisame and Loquat Jozo looked at each other and nodded. They are both from the same village, and now they have become rebel ninjas. It is acceptable for the two of them to form a team together. And me? Where are my teammates? Angel's eyes were glowing with green light and he said. Upon hearing this, Pain couldn't help but feel a little headache. Of course, Pain is a dead man, to be precise. Nagato behind him felt a headache. You are so embarrassed to say that, Angel. Every time I take my teammates out to do a mission. After completing the mission, I not only get the bounty from the mission, but also the bounty from my teammates. It has only been a few years since I recruited the Angel, but it has already changed a few times. Any teammates? The Akatsuki organization now has a total of 9 people. 4 groups, plus 1 Kakuzu. Pain and Konan team up, and usually rarely go on missions. Orochimaru and Akasaka Scorpion team up, but between these two guys the relationship between them doesn't seem to be very harmonious. Uchiha Obito and Zetsu have always been together. Kisame Kisaki, who just joined, is also assigned to the same team as Jozo Loquat. There is always something wrong here in Kakuzu. Can you control it and stop killing teammates all the time? Konan couldn't help but sigh. She was also responsible for finding new members for the Akatsuki organization. She recruited the Red Sand Scorpion. Most of Kakuzu's previous teammates were also recruited by her. However, now, these people have turned into the form of money to contribute to the Xiao organization. Those guys are so weak that they can't even dodge my attacks. Kakuzu said in a cold voice. Konan was speechless for a while. This is not the reason for you to attack your teammates. Anyone with less strength will not survive long under Kakuzu. In the past, Kakuzu once teamed up with Loquat Jozo for a short period of time. However, soon Loquat Jozang applied to act alone. In other words, Loquat Jozang's strength is not bad. Otherwise, it would now become a bounty in the hands of Jiao Xiao. I also hope to change my teammate. Orochimaru is not to my liking at all. The Scorpion of Red Sand also said. Although they both like to study things, their directions are completely different. What he likes is puppets, the mechanical devices inside puppets. Although Orochimaru also studies the human body, he is more interested in the biological direction. The two of them are completely at odds with each other. What's more, Orochimaru has been missing for 3 days. He doesn't know where he's wandering off now. Regarding teammates, we will definitely help you find the right candidate as soon as possible. Uchiha Obito spoke. After experiencing the disastrous defeat not long ago, he decided to officially come to the stage of the Akatsuki organization. The biggest problem now is that the 5th Hokage of Konoha, Hyuga Nariku, will become a threat to our Akatsuki organization. The goal of our Akatsuki organization is peace. And Hinatan Nariku, his own strength, and Konoha behind him will become our biggest obstacles. Excuse me. Orochimaru said in a leisurely tone. I want to know, what exactly is our Akatsuki organization going to do? How can we bring peace to the ninja world? When he first met Pain, he recognized the kid he saw in the Land of Rain. However, what he didn't understand was why Yahiko, who was so ordinary back then, suddenly had the Samsara eye. And why? Yes, after joining the Akatsuki organization, he only saw Yahiko and Konan. but he never saw the red-haired kid named Nagato. The first step is to collect a lot of money by completing bounty tasks. Pen said in an emotionless voice. The second step is to establish a mercenary organization that does not belong to any country, provoke some small wars, first monopolize the war commissions of small countries at low prices, increase the scale of the war, and then break the ninja system of the big countries and monopolize all wars. As for the third step, collect all tailed beasts, use tailed beast weapons, and conquer the world. Everyone has a thoughtful expression. From this point of view, the Akatsuki organization's target will be the 5 great ninja villages and the 9 great tailed beasts. No matter what, they will eventually confront the 5 great ninja villages. However, everyone present they are traitorous ninjas. Even Zetsu has the title of traitorous ninja of Kusakure village. They are wanted by the entire ninja world. Even if they have to fight against the 5 major ninja villages, they will not be embarrassed by it. Is the target a tailed beast? Orochimaru said with a playful expression. I recently heard that the 4th Mizukage of Kumogakure village was controlled by a mysterious man wearing a whirlpool mask, and the 4th Mizukage Godakibana Yagura is the 3-tailed Jinchuriki. What? Loquat couldn't help but be surprised. The reason why he defected was because he couldn't stand the increasingly cruel village. But he didn't expect that the 4th Mizukage, who was becoming more and more crazy, was actually controlled by someone. As for control the 4th Mizukage, everyone present looked at Obito Uchiha, who was wearing a whirlpool mask. The 5th Hokage of Konoha has mastered the wood release comparable to that of the 1st Hokage, easily defeating the 3 tails. Uchiha Obito did not respond directly, but instead said, "Would escape." Pain silently recited this word in his mind. Of course he also knows this, the ninjutsu of Senju Hashirama, the ninja god back then. Kakuzu's green eyes were dim and bright, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Orochimaru, aren't you from Konoha? What do you know about Hyuga? The scorpion of red sand said. He has mastered wood release. It looks like it will be a good collection. The 3rd generation Kazekage of Sand Hidden Village has already become his collection. So having one 5th generation Hokage is not a problem. When I left Konoha, I didn't hear that he had mastered wood release. Orochimaru said simply. He had had contact and transactions with Hyuga. He even spoke highly of Hyuga. However, he did not expect that Hyuga would grow to his current strength so quickly. Naruto-kun is really exciting. Orochimaru thought playfully in his heart. Hinatan Naruto's wood release can create a huge Buddha statue that is 1,000 meters high, and can even grab the 3 tails directly in his hand. Uchiha Obito said coldly. If you don't explain it in detail, these traitorous ninjas who are not afraid of anything will probably regard Hyuga as a soft persimmon that can be kneaded. KM. Catch the 3 tails in your hand. At this time, even the members of the Akatsuki organization were not calm. Although the size of the body may not necessarily represent the corresponding strength. But, if the body size reaches the level of 1,000 meters, this size itself already means a huge deterrent. Hyuga and Konoha will be our biggest obstacles that we must remove. Uchiha Obito spoke in an indifferent voice. If you want to realize the Eye of the Moon plan, you must find a way to kill Hyuga and weaken Konoha. There was no emotion in Pain's Samsara eyes, and he said. Zetsu, find out the information about the 9-tailed beast Jinchuriki as soon as possible. Konoha will indeed be our biggest obstacle. Next, while the Akatsuki organization is performing tasks to collect funds, it will also use various methods to weaken Konoha's strength. Kumogakure forced me, and the 3rd Hokage persuaded me to die. Author, Uchiha Hokage. Chapter 124. After the meeting, the figures of Orochimaru and others dispersed one by one. Uchiha Obito, Zetsu, Pain, and Konan stayed behind. Is that fifth Hokage Hinatan Naraka really that strong? Thousands of meters of Buddha statues. Xionan frowned slightly. This height has even surpassed that of the heretic demon. Generally speaking, only earth type and water type can perform ninjutsu of this scale. For example, earth release, earth mountain technique. It can create two hemispherical mountains and crush the opponent inside. Just a lot more. Obito said without hesitation. Hinatan Naraka's Buddha statue directly grabbed the three-tailed Isofu in his hand and threw it out, even breaking a mountain. This scene beyond his imagination is still flashing in his mind. The tailed beast is obviously a symbol of disaster, but it is thrown out like a sandbag. Three tails. Pain's expression didn't change much. Although he has never seen a tailed beast. However, the beastly Deo Pain also controls a large number of psychic beasts. Those psychic beasts are each over 10 meters in size. In fact, many of them are tens of meters in size. Compared to tailed beasts, there's not much difference. But even such a giant psychic beast is completely inadequate in front of the godlike power of Tendao Pain. Even if all the psychic beasts of the beastly Pain attack Tendo Pain at the same time, they can only be solved with one Shinra Tenzen. Although he has never fought against any tailed beasts, Nagato does not take most tailed beasts seriously in his heart. Moreover, for the 1,000-meter-long Buddha statue mentioned by Uchiha Madara. Although he was also very scared, he was not helpless. If he can't handle it, he can still channel the heretic demon. In front of the heretic demon, even Sanshou Hanzo, known as the demigod, could only run away in confusion. Don't be careless. Uchiha Obito saw Pain's expression and warned him. He also had confidence in Nagato's Rinnegan. But he didn't think Hinatan Naraka could be defeated easily. If Nagato is careless, even if there is samsara, it is very likely that you will lose. I have fully mastered the power of the samsara Pen said with confidence. The more he discovered the power of the samsara the more he understood the godlike power. Obito Uchiha nodded and continued. The third-generation Hokage of Konoha, Hiruzen Sarutobi, and the three elders including Shimura Danzo, have all been killed by Hyuga Naraku. It can be said that Konoha is now monolithic internally. It's not only Hinatan Naraku we have to deal with, Konoha is also the one we must weaken. The deaths of these four people cannot be regarded as Konoha's loss at all. Even for Obito, the deaths of these people have given the gradually decaying Konoha a new lease of life. If those old guys like Sarutobi Hiruzen are still, if he is, Konoha will continue to fight among itself. In this way, even if he doesn't take action, Konoha will weaken little by little. At least, between the Uchiha clan and Konoha's top management. In the end, only one will be left. But now, Hyuga Naraku killed those people and became Hokage. Obito's previous expectations were all ruined. He used to be very optimistic about Uchiha Itachi, thinking that the other party could become a pawn in his destruction of Uchiha. Now, Itachi Uchiha has completely transformed into the shape of Hinatan Naraku. Danzo, dead. Konan, and Nagato behind Pain, were absent-minded for a while. They only had a general understanding of the news about Konoha. They knew that the third Hokage had defected and the fifth Hokage had taken over, but they didn't know much about the specific situation inside Konoha. No, think of it. One of their most hated enemies, Shimura Danzo, is dead. Well, under the pressure of Hyuga Naraku and the major clan leaders of Konoha, Hyuga Naraku was executed in public. Obito said with a playful expression. Even he thought this was a very ironic thing. The advisory elder of a village was asked to be executed in public by everyone. And Sarutobi Hiruzen had to agree. A good death. Konan's eyes were cold, but she was in a very happy mood. This way of death is barely a qualified punishment. Even if possible, she hopes to see Danzo die in front of him. Pain also nodded slowly. It's a pity that I couldn't avenge Yahiko personally. Pen said with a little regret. For a moment, he and Konan even had a better impression of Hinata Nariku. As long as you hate Danzo, we can talk about it. However, I will personally take revenge on the remaining one. A cold look appeared in Pain's reincarnation eyes. Back then, Shimura Danzo and Sancho Hanzo teamed up to set a trap for the then Akatsuki organization. He and Konan's close friend, Yahiko, were forced to commit suicide. The first generation of the Akatsuki organization, only the remaining he and Zionin. Sancho Hanzo, you will be my first step in bringing peace to the ninja world. Nagato made up his mind. After fully mastering the Rinnegan, Sancho Hanzo, the demigod of the ninja world, will be the best target for the sword test. What are you going to do next? Heiju said in a hoarse voice. First transplant a few more Sharingan eyes. Obito hesitated for a while before saying. Recalling the experience of being almost killed by Hyuga Nariku again, he now felt scared. If he was really killed, how could he activate the infinite Tsukuyomi and create Urin world? Fortunately, the amount of Sharingan left behind by Uchiha Madara is abundant enough. Black Zetsu nodded. He also thought it was necessary. If Obito dies, then he will be the only one left in the Eye of the Moon project. He has endured it for thousands of years, and finally managed to survive in Uki. A pair of Samsara eyes appeared on Abanara. After Uchiha Madara died, there was still Obito, a high-quality chess piece who firmly wanted infinite Tsukuyomi. We couldn't let Obito die like this. The 2 times you did it before were both because you were too slow to activate your divine power when rescuing people. Heiju said pointedly. Uchiha Obito was silent and did not speak. He knows what Black Ju means. With only one eye, it is not fast enough to activate its divine power. Heiju was suggesting to him to take back his other eye. That is your thing, why are you hesitating? Black Zetsu feels a little puzzling. Sometimes, he can't understand Obito's thoughts at all. Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina, were they good to him at the beginning? Good. Kushina's attitude towards Obito, and even Kakashi the best among the 3 in the team. But didn't Obito still release the Kuwabai and kill the Yondaime couple? Why was Kakashi so hesitant to even get back an eye? Don't you think this is a false world? Why still hesitate? The one who spoke was the original White Zetsu. He couldn't understand Obito's thoughts. He thought this was a false world, so the 4th generation couple died. How come Kakashi's attitude is so different? I will take care of these things myself. Obito said with a cold snort. Thinking of the 4th Mizukage who had lost control, Obito said with hatred on his face. The punishment Kirigakure deserves is not enough. That bastard Yagura hasn't been punished enough. Otakabana Yagura, under the control of his long-term illusion, the spirit body will gradually become weaker. In the end, it will even die silently. This is exactly what Obito wants. On the one hand, let Yagura feel until he gradually weakens and dies. On the other hand, let Yagura see with his own eyes that Kirigakure village is heading for destruction bit by bit. Let Yagura die of anger and regret. This is the best punishment in Obito's mind. Are you still going to torment Kirigakure? Heizetsu felt a little speechless. Obito, this guy, has such a hatred for Kirigakure. At the time, Nohara Rin's death did not expect it to have such a big impact. They were the ones who caused Lin's death, and this is the punishment they must suffer. Obito said with real hatred in his eyes. However, Black Zetsu even wanted to laugh in his heart. Obito, this idiot, knew that Kakashi killed Lin as a last resort. But he didn't know that Nohara Lin also died as a last resort. Give Nohara Rin set a curse seal so that she could only commit suicide by the hands of others. These were all arrangements by Uchiha Madara. And Obito, an idiot, could only vent his ridiculous hatred towards the wrong target of revenge. They are just a group of stupid pawns. Nagato is, so is Obito, and Uchiha Madara is even more so. They are just pawns for him to rescue his mother. The boring plan that lasts for 1,000 years, Black Zetsu can only find a little pleasure in these things. Feel. What are you going to do? Heiju suppressed the joy in his heart and said curiously. It's not like I only have one Yagura available in Kumogakure. Obito said with a sneer. He has controlled the fourth generation of Mizukage for so many years. Kumogakure has been riddled with holes from his penetration.